And we're going to continue our coverage of the war in Ukraine now. Russia and China are going to conduct military drills in partnership with South Africa. Now, this joint exercise is going to last, we understand, around 10 days. However, the South African government says the country is not abandoning its neutral position on the conflict. Joining me to discuss this, our security and defence analyst, Professor Michael Clarke. So how does this work? South Africa taking part in military drills with China and Russia, yet it's remaining neutral. Eyebrows will be raised, for sure.
Yes, and they've really chosen the right time to do it. There they are in the United Nations, we expect later on today, sticking with their neutrality, not committing themselves to condemning Russia. And on the very day that is the anniversary, the first anniversary of the war, they're about to conduct military drills with Chinese and Russian ships. This is the ship that everyone's interested in. This is the Admiral Gorshkov, the Russian ship, the Russian frigate, which is the flagship of their frigate force, carries the Zircon missile, the hypersonic missile, which President Putin was only boasting about again this morning. The Russians say they won't fire the Zircon missile in these tests, but we'll see about that. Interestingly, though, they're not just meeting up at sea. This is the Gorshkov in Richards Bay yesterday. So it went alongside, and when ships go alongside, they put their flags out, the big Z on the tower, and it's a diplomatic thing. Officials go on board and pay their respects. So, you know, this has all the diplomacy. This is the Ukraine war from Russia's point of view. It's performing a diplomatic mission. So it's raised some eyebrows in South Africa as to why, with our neutral position, are we hosting or are we joining in on this exactly on the anniversary when everyone's thinking about the war. It's a very assertive statement of non-alignment. Yeah,
creating a very tangled diplomatic web there. We'll keep an eye on that. In the meantime, let's talk about ammunition. Ukraine saying they need more, you know, the Western allies saying that they need to supply more, but there's difficulties all over the place with this in terms of stocks of it and creating more.
Yes. I mean, the ammunition they really need is artillery shells. Both sides are getting through prodigious amounts of artillery. The Ukrainians are firing off about 5,000 shells a day, most days. The Russians more than twice that. And the artillery they normally use is the 152mm is the old Soviet artillery. That's what the Russians use. The Ukrainians had a lot of that, but they've moved to NATO standard artillery, the 155s, slightly bigger. And we've chosen this photograph of the 155s here because it shows it can get very old and it still works. I mean, some of this stuff was produced in the 1980s, but if it's properly stored, it still works. If it's not properly stored, there'd be a lot of duds. But the whole point about artillery is it's very basic stuff. And you need lots of it. Millions and millions of shells are stored around the world. The Ukrainians need them, but they also need more accurate artillery, and these can be made more accurate. There's an Excalibur version of it, which has got a guidance system, is more accurate. What the Ukrainians are really asking for is JTACMs, which is a joint tactical missile. And these are missiles that can be fired from multiple launch rocket systems, which they have got. But it's the range of these things, accuracy and range. They've got 300 kilometres range, they're very accurate. If they really want to get at the Russia's logistics, as they were doing before Christmas, Russia's pulled all their logistics back, so now the Ukrainians need another missile to get to those systems that are further behind the front line. This is what they want. President Zelensky has mentioned it specifically. They need this as much as they need F-16s, and they're hoping for it. And then there's some improvisations. There's a wonderful thing called the ground-launched small-diameter bomb. And it's a lot of bombs that Boeing produced, had a lot of spares, a lot of missiles that Saab produced. They put them together. It's cheap, it's accurate. It hasn't been used yet, but the Americans have said, yes, we're putting this onto the battlefield. It hasn't been tested anywhere else. And the Ukrainians will get that in a few months' time. And again, it can be launched from a multiple launch rocket system. Accuracy is what they want.